Just a reminder that you can buy Bitcoin in a Roth IRA, a 401k, an IRA, a 529 plan, and pretty much anything else you could possibly imagine for retirement accounts or anything. The way you do that is with one of the Bitcoin ETFs, exchange traded funds. The two largest ones are Fidelity, which is FBTC, F as in Fidelity, BTC as in the first three consonants of the word Bitcoin. FBTC. And the other big one is BlackRock with IBIT is their Bitcoin ETF. But here's the process. First of all, Fidelity, I always recommend Fidelity because they custody the Bitcoin themselves, meaning rather than store it at Coinbase or anywhere else, Fidelity actually has a digital assets group that stores the Bitcoin. And that way you're only trusting Fidelity. You're not trusting Fidelity and anyone else. But anyway, so the way you do it is you download the Fidelity mobile app on your phone, or you go to fidelity.com and create an account. And when you create an account, it'll ask you sort of what you're trying to do and how you want to do it, et cetera. And you just tell it you want to transfer assets. So the options in the settings is transfer assets. It'll say from where. You say from an external account, and then it'll ask you what kind. And your options are 529 plan, IRA, Roth IRA, rollover IRA, 401k, 403b. It gives you all of the options of like, here's all the things you could possibly want to move over. If you have a Roth IRA at just another firm, let's call it American Funds or something like that, the way you do it is you go in and you say, okay, I want to move assets over. It'll say from where. You say American Funds. It'll say, okay, what assets do you have at American Funds that you want to move over? So, for example, if you're moving over a Roth IRA, then when it asks you what you're moving over, you'll say Roth IRA. And then, because obviously, if it's coming from a Roth IRA, you want it to go to a Roth IRA. If it's coming from a 529 plan, you want it to go to a 529 plan. If it's coming from an old 401k plan, then you have to do what's called a rollover IRA. But it tells you that when you walk it through, it tells you sort of what entity it should go into. Because ultimately, you're going to create an account at Fidelity that mirrors wherever it came from. So let's say you have a Roth IRA that is with American funds. So you go in and you pick American funds, you give it the account number for your fund at American funds, and then it says, what assets do you want me to pull over? And you've got to use your like financial statement from your old Roth IRA and select the assets that you want to move over. And there'll be a bunch of, typically random 5-letter names. That is, the American Funds Growth Fund A and American Funds Bond Fund B and, stuff like that. But anyway, the ticker symbols, which is the numbers, are usually like PXYZB or NTRBT. Each of them has a different number. So anyway, you go in there and you can find this on your statement for your old Roth IRA or wherever it is. You find it on there and it says, okay, what do you want to move over? You say RTBTQ or whatever. And then it says, okay, how many shares of that? And just estimate because they want to make sure you're picking the right one on your statement. And you say, okay, I've got 150 shares of that. And so you stick that in there. And you do that for each of the assets you want to move over. Often a Roth IRA or an IRA or a retirement fund, sometimes they'll have a single item in them, like the, retirement targeted 2055 fund. And it'll literally just be one thing. If that's the case, that makes it easy. You just pick that thing and say you want to move it over. And the easiest way to do that, there's a checkbox on Fidelity that says, do you want to move this over as the asset it started, or do you want to move it over as cash? If you're planning to buy Bitcoin with it, you want to move it over as cash because that way you will not have to sell the asset as soon as it gets, as soon as it gets to the Fidelity platform. So anything that's inside a retirement account stays inside a retirement account. And so you want to keep it tax advantaged. And regular disclaimer, I am not a tax advisor, not a financial advisor, not a lawyer. I don't give legal advice. I don't give accounting advice. I don't give any kind of advice. I'm just telling you, this is what I would do if I were you. These are just my random opinions. So if I were you, I would want to move it over as cash. And the reason is because if you move something over as a stock to Fidelity and then you sell it, Fidelity makes you wait a couple of days for the cash to settle before you can turn around and buy Bitcoin. If you tell Fidelity that you want it to pull it over as cash rather than as the stocks that it came from, then it will show up in your Fidelity account as cash and you can use it to buy Bitcoin immediately. So to recap the steps, you go to fidelity.com and create an account. Then you tell it you want to transfer assets over, and it'll ask you what kind, and you pick Roth IRA or 401k or 403b. Now, the one caveat here is you cannot do this with your current employer retirement account. So if you've worked at the same, at least I don't think you can. I haven't found a way to do that. And I don't have a current employee, 401k plan to even worry about. But I did this with my old Baumgar Corporation 401k, which if you do that with an old 401k, you have to it turns into a rollover IRA. If you have a current employer plan, you can't move it over because your employer manages it, and you can't move over a plan that your employer is actively managing, which typically means you can't invest a current 401k in Bitcoin unless your employer lets you, and the vast majority of employers have not updated their systems to let you buy Bitcoin with a current 401k. So, but with any of these retirement accounts, you can move it over to Fidelity and buy Bitcoin. Some of the retirement accounts, if you already have it on Fidelity or you already have it on BlackRock or Franklin Templeton or something like that, you can probably already buy Bitcoin that way. But most retirement funds are with something like American Funds, or there's a bunch of different providers. But most of those providers do not let you buy Bitcoin with it, because if you buy Bitcoin, that means the financial advisor does not get the 1% annual fee. And they want that 1% annual fee, obviously, because that's their business model. And so the vast majority of funds other than Fidelity, BlackRock, and a handful of others do not let you directly buy Bitcoin within retirement accounts, because they want you to buy one of the pre-approved accounts where they get 1% of your assets every year, regardless of performance, um, because that's their business model. But in my opinion, Bitcoin is a much better investment than any of those other things. And that's why I recommend, Bitcoin. But again, this is not financial advice. Um, again, the steps are: you create an account at Fidelity, you tell it you want to transfer assets from another institution. It will ask you what institution that is. You pick Wells Fargo Advisors, or, what, American Funds, or SEI, or, anyway, there's a bunch of different ones, but you pick whatever it is. Um, then it'll ask you for your account number. Then it'll ask you for which assets you want to move over, and you got to tell it, and sometimes it makes it easy. Some of the times it'll say move just all the assets over, and you just click a button. So sometimes you can click one button and you can move all the assets over, but sometimes it requires you to enter the assets you want to move over, and so you have to pull up one of your old statements from your old Roth IRA or whatever it is, and key in the actual assets, and then tell it, I want, this many shares of this many shares of that. Again, it works a lot easier if you click the box that says sell these shares at the old place before you move the cash over. That way it moves cash from the old Roth IRA or the old IRA into the IRA or Roth IRA or whatever it is you're setting up at Fidelity, and then it shows up as cash. As soon as it shows up as cash, you just go in the interface of Fidelity and look for assets and type FBTC. And you'll find the Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund, which is the Fidelity Bitcoin ETF. They gave it a nice fancy name so it fits with all their other funds that do various things. But it is the Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund, which is FBTC, F as in Foxtrot, BTC as in the three consonants of the word, or the first three of the word Bitcoin. So that is how you do it. You can do it with almost any retirement account other than your current employer 401k or 403b. So if your current employer, if you are still employed with an employer that has a 401k or 403b, I do not think you can move that account over, because because it's an account with your current employer and they get to manage it rather than you. Um, Also, again, when people ask me how much, again, I am not a financial advisor, but it seems logical in my mind that something like 20 or 30% of retirement funds is a good number, assuming you have a nice long runway. If you're close to retirement or you're in retirement, then I don't know. You've got to be as conservative as you feel like you've got to be. But for somebody who's in their, 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s, depending on how much, runway you've got, before you want to retire, it seems prudent, in my opinion, to do like 20 or 30%. That way, if it goes up, 10x in value, it's a significant amount of money that radically alters how much you have for retirement. But at 20% or 30%, it's not a completely unrecoverable amount if something bad happens. Um, Not that anybody wants to, something bad to happen to any portion of 20 or 30% of their retirement. But obviously, for most people, you can do riskier stuff with a significant, with a portion like that, and you're not going to be eating cat food, living under a bridge, as compared to whatever your retirement would otherwise be. So hopefully that helps. I recommend Fidelity because I'm most familiar with it and because they do a really good job of being Bitcoin friendly. I'm sure you can do the same thing with BlackRock or with other providers if they will let you move over retirement accounts and if they will let you buy Bitcoin, specifically one of the Bitcoin ETFs from within a retirement account. Um, but that is sort of how you do it. It's a great way to hold Bitcoin. And if you have any questions, you can always call me 601-207-0813. That number again, 601-207-0813. You can also message me on Facebook Messenger or text message me. I'm happy to help if you get stuck. Again, everything I do is for free, and I am not a licensed financial, tax, accounting lawyer. I'm not a licensed any one of those. I'm just a guy that likes to help people and to spend a lot of hours studying all this stuff. So have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much.